Insufficient funds is a conundrum because many operators think they don't have this problem. One of the reasons I'm aware of this insufficient funds problem is because myself and my wife actually own a couple of beverage-centric restaurants. Beverage-centric restaurants open tabs, whether it's at a bar or a QR or any number of ways. You end up opening a tab, you pre-authorize a card, and then at the end of the night, you run that card and hope the transaction clears. The reality is some people have started to realize they can exploit this. And I know the numbers on this because I see them in my own restaurants. And I don't think other operators should be suffering the same exploitation that sort of bad actors are doing. And it's partially due to the structures within hospitality. GMs and staff know that they're going to run cards at the end of the night that aren't going to get paid. When that occurs, somebody gets shorted a tip. The restaurant gets shorted the payment for the food and beverage they gave away. So not only do they lose the money for that credit card transaction, they actually lose the money for the food that they bought and gave to somebody who hooked up the food. So insufficient funds is a real problem. We see between 0.5% and 1% of all revenue gets unpaid by a client with a card that doesn't have sufficient funds on. Unfortunately, it's also underreported. So because GMs and staff don't want to admit that, hey, maybe someone walked out, catch them, or they didn't see them. Obviously, they're probably busy. They're not going to necessarily report that up to ownership. So if there's some way to attribute it to something else, they're going to go ahead and do that because it's really not a good explanation to ownership that, hey, I was busy and I didn't see that person bail out on their table and I don't really know who it was. And yeah, I'm sorry. So it's much easier to say it was bad food, or much easier to say that, that someone was unhappy and mark it up as a comp or avoid. But this is a real problem, and we see these numbers day in, day out. And some of the best operators we've talked to are losing a lot of money on it. One I talked to last week is losing $50,000 a month in insufficient fund charges. So this is a multi-unit concept, but $50,000 a month in insufficient charges is a big number. The reason I say all this is with GoTab, you can actually eliminate this entirely across the board. We have a technology that will essentially reauthorize the card on every single transaction, every single order, whether it's on a QR or at a bar. And as a result, they just simply cannot order more if the card doesn't have the funds to cover it. It's not going to show up on their statement as multiple transactions. It's not going to freak out the clients. We do this in a careful and thoughtful way so that they're going to see the pre-authorization, but we're also going to make sure that there are funds on the card for the food or beverage that they order.